Hi everybody, it's Joe Krug from Finsweet. In this video, we're going over the Finsweet CMS library for Webflow. We're in the docs going through the filter section. Let's set up complex filtering systems that work with Webflow CMS. Here with the filter component, we're able to set up different types of filters with different triggers and filter items in our CMS dynamic list in real time. It doesn't require a lot of code or a lot of thought or a lot of effort. You don't need to know how to write JavaScript in order to use this filter tool. Use cases. You want to set up a simple filtering system. Maybe you want a single selection of services and show those different services when somebody filters that grid. Maybe you want a very complex setup. You have a few hundred items, maybe even a few thousand items, and you want a user to be able to filter through that data and really find what they're looking for. You can use searches, buttons, radios, checkboxes, selects. We have it all ready for you to use and integrate with Webflow CMS. And now let's get into setting up a filter. The first thing we have to do is define our filter groups in an array. An array is a list. That is a JavaScript term that you just learned. An array is a list. So we need to create a list of all the filters that we want on this page. Do we want to filter by services, by color, by category, by year? What are we filtering by? That's what we're putting in this list right now. We have to define our filter wrappers and our filter type. And you can see that each item in this list has filter wrapper, filter type. And in this example right here, we have 3 different filter groups. So we're going to be able to filter by 3 different things. And it looks like it's category, color, and service. Let's get deeper into what this is and how to set it up. Filter wrapper. This is the parent wrapper of the filter group. We're going to get more in detail with this. We're going to look at visuals, but this is the parent wrapper of all the buttons in that filter group. So if I'm filtering by category, I may have web design, web development, and animation. All 3 of those buttons are in a parent wrapper called filter bar category. And that's all I need to do to define those 3 buttons as a filter group. Filter type, exclusive or multi. We're going to go into that in more detail later on in the video. As a quick note on it, exclusive allows for 1 option at a time. Multi allows for 2 options at a time. Again, we're going to go in much more detail about this. It's super important and super powerful. We're doing this for each one. Filter wrapper, what's that parent wrapper? What's that parent div? What's the filter type? What's that parent wrapper? What's the filter type? And you can do this as many times as you want. You can have 1 of these filter groups, as we see up here. You can have many of these filter groups, as we see here. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different filter groups, all working together. So we set this list here, and we set it as a variable. All of this information, look at this list item, comma, this list item, comma, this list item, is all sitting inside an array with a variable of my filters. So now whenever we want to reference all of these list items, we're going to use my filters to reference this list. And now we're going to go into the code to tell the library these are the filter groups that we want to filter by. Now let's run this filter component. Before the closing body tag, we are going to put our script right under our library script. We have an immediately self-invoke function. We have our new instance of the Finsweet CMS library targeted at our blog post lists in a variable called custom blog posts. If I went through that way too fast for you and you had no idea what I just said, go to the Get Started video. I go through this step in detail. We have this array that we just created up here. What I just showed you here is the same thing we have here. I just wanted to show you separately that this is just a list. It's not a function. We're not running any processes with this. It's just a list that we're storing. This is where we're actually running processes, and we're going to run this functionality on the collection list. So we have our custom blog post variable holding our instance of the library, and we're going to run our filter component on this collection list. And look at this here. We have our filter component, closing our filter component, and then we have our options in here. These are the options for the filter component. And then here with animation, these are the options for our animation. Filter array. The filter array is the filter array. And that's what we just set up here. My filters. Look at this. We have my filters, and we're putting it right here in the filter array. And that is giving all of the list that we made, whether it's one item on the list or 20 items on the list. Yes, you can actually add 20 items to the list, and it all will be stored in this variable. Active class. Active class is the active add-on class that will be added to an active state filter button. Let's say we're filtering by category and somebody clicks on website design. When they click on that, the list will filter website design. We want to show the user that we're filtered by website design, so there'll be an add-on class to that filter web design button. That add-on class will change the background or change the border or change the color or change whatever. That active class can be defined here. You can define this however you want. You can say button active, active, use your own naming system, whatever. Please know that we are not putting the period here. We've already defined this as a class, so we don't need to put the period. It's just this text here, button active, with the quotes. Sweet. Okay, now we have our animation, and also there should be a comma here, which will be put after this video. So we have a comma after this button active, and we have our animation. Here we're setting it to false, because we don't want it to animate when we filter. Maybe it's a really simple list or a really big list, and we don't want to put that extra processing on the site. So we've enabled it to false. If you want to enable it to true, go ahead and do that. It's going to animate the items in and out of the list as they're filtering in and out. Go ahead in that visual scriptwriter, play around with that, and figure out the animation that works best for your site. Let's go through this code explanation, make sure we are understanding everything. Here we have our custom blog post, which is the variable that we are storing our library instance in. This is how we can so easily go and run this filter component on our entire CMS list. Variable filters. This is the variable that we created to store the array. And we are going to grab this my filters to go and put in here. It's asking for the array. This is the variable we set, and now it has access to that full list. Filter wrapper. This is the parent div that's holding the UI elements of the filter group. Now we can go into a visual of what this looks like inside Webflow. The HTML structure and data attributes is a big part of filtering. We have not touched the data attributes part. We're just starting to get into HTML structure now. This is what it looks like. Look at these filter buttons nested inside parent elements. We have our filter bar category with 3 filter buttons. We have our filter bar color with 2 filter buttons. And then we have our filter bar service with checkboxes nested inside. That's okay. You can double nest, triple nest, nest, and it's still gonna work. As long as it is a parent div of the filter group, it works. Doesn't matter how deep it's nested. Doesn't matter if there are other elements inside of this. It only matters that it's a parent. It's very flexible. So we have done that up here. We have this div that's holding the UI elements. Filter type, exclusive versus multi. Exclusive allows the user to select one option at a time. If I click red, all the red will show. If I then click blue, red will be unselected and only blue will be selected. There will be no more red showing in the list and only blue will be showing in the list. Only one option at a time. That is exclusive. Multi is multiple options at a time. I click red, it shows all the red. I click blue, it also shows the blue. It's now going to be showing red and blue. Nothing's unselected. I then click green. Green is shown in addition to blue and red. You start adding this to other filter groups, maybe red and web design and 2020, and now you have 3 different options all filtered at the same time, all exclusive. Maybe you want 2020, 2019, red and blue, and web design and development. You can choose all of those options if each of those filter groups are set to multi. So this is super powerful, exclusive versus multi. In the doc walkthrough examples where we are implementing these live, you will clearly see these working differently, exclusive versus multi. So please check that out. It goes into this in detail and shows you visually the difference. Filter array, this is where we use our variable that the array was stored in, and that is this filter array option right here. We have our add-on class of active class, and I see a typo here. That will be fixed also. And our active class is the class that's added to those buttons when that button is active. Animation, enable, true or false, duration in seconds. 0.2 is 200 milliseconds. 0.5 is 500 milliseconds. Easing, ease in, ease out, ease in, out. Those are your options there. Go ahead and choose the one that's right for your design. Filter by, that is what we have not touched yet, and that's what we're about to get into. We're going to go further into this HTML structure and data attributes. It's an important part of filtering. It's super, super easy, and we're going to get into it right now. We need to tell the library what these filter buttons are going to filter by. Filter by is a data attribute that we can add to HTML elements to tell the library this filters by blue, this filters by web design, this filters by animation. We have our parents structured. We understand this already. We went through this. The parent wrappers hold all the buttons, and we can define if all of those buttons are exclusive or multi. Great. But now, how do we tell the difference between what filter button filters by web design and which one filters by animation? With color, which one filters by red, which one filters by blue? With services, with checkboxes, are 2020, 19, and 18. We're doing that through data attributes with the filter by data attribute. What we are going to do is apply a filter by with the name or the value that it should be filtering by. So in this example, filter by, this button would filter by current. So any CMS item that you have tagged as current is going to be filtered when you click this button. Adding a value of asterisk will filter all items in a group. So maybe you have a color filter with blue and red and green and all. All would be this asterisk. And you can go and add this as a reset button. You can add it as an all button. It essentially says, hey, everything inside of this filter group, we're showing everything here. So reset, all, either one, asterisk. Let's go through the types of HTML elements that we can use for filter buttons. We can use divs, links, search input, select field, checkbox, and radio button. We can use all of these elements, as seen here, to create a full, complex, build it how you want filtering setup. And as we go down here, we're going to see that each one of these gets the filter by data attribute to tell the library what it is being filtered by. So in this, the div is going to be filtered by current. Here, the link is going to be filtered by current. Here, the search input is always going to get the asterisk. Search is always going to be searching for everything. So go ahead, put that asterisk in there, and it's going to run that search on all the items. Select dropdown. Here we have a little bit of a different setup because of how it's set up in Webflow. And what we need to do is filter by, on the select item, the select element, by asterisks. That's essentially setting it to all. When there is nothing selected, it's searching by all. There's no filter applied. Then, with the choices, we're going to add the text as the visible text. Has nothing to do with the library. And then value will be what that element filters by. So in this example, this select dropdown, blue color, red color, this blue color is going to filter by the word blue. It's going to filter all of those elements inside the CMS item that have blue attached to it. Awesome. Checkbox. Please make sure when you are using the checkbox and radio that you are applying the data attribute to the checkbox element, to the radio button element. This is the custom input. Look at this, input, input. You are not applying it to the parent wrapper of this checkbox. You're not applying it to the label. We are applying it to this element here, to this actual input element. And there you go. These are all the HTML elements that we can use and apply that data attribute to show what we want to filter by. If you have more questions about this, which you probably do, please transition into the walkthrough examples. I go through a whole bunch of examples showing all these different options, live walkthroughs, different filtering types, and you will understand a lot more when you see this working. This is a super powerful tool, and if you really learn how to use this filtering component in the Finsweet CMS library, you will be able to set up super complex powerhouse filtering systems.
That's Finsweet.